also want to share one more image here as well, just in great theme here as we're missing two of our counterparts here tonight. And this is just a great tribute to both Jessup and Becca.
Oh, yes.
Look at this great screenshot of them having a frozen podcast camera when Jessup was coming in hot to try to throw the caution flag at Mason.
Speeding up, no slowing down.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Track Packers podcast for a mini episode, but episode 17 unofficially of season 4. It's just the two hooligans this time, myself, Mason, and John Breckel holding down the fort, while our other two members are off gallivanting somewhere. How are you doing, John?
I'm doing well. We have lost the Pelkeys.
Yes,
So,
so
Mason, I think they got dropped off in the kind of in the Badlands someplace over there in between Williston and Dickinson. I think they just threw them out of the vehicle someplace.
yeah, that was the last I saw of them, and so we might have to start putting their faces on milk cartons here pretty soon.
That might be a good idea. That might be a really good idea to make sure that people could find them.
Yeah. In all seriousness, the Pelkeys are on the Dakota Classic Modified Tour, which right now, as we're recording this, they're in the middle of the feature events at the Southwest Speedway in Dickinson, and they'll be finishing off the tour tomorrow night in Mandan at the Dakota Speedway. And so, John and I got to take in a night of that. We'll kind of talk about that a little bit and give a rundown of the races we were at just before the mod tour. And so, kind of an informal episode with no prep. So, I'm going to be the one flubbing up because usually I'm very structured. Usually.
Usually. Usually.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's not really going to be any official flagging, no cautions or anything like that. Just going to be just talking about what we got to experience over the last week or so. So
Yep.
thank you to our sponsors. Of course, we got to thank Hitch Harness, our presenting sponsor, Tyler Hall. Didn't go on tour this year. Been able to race or hasn't raced a ton this year, but greatly appreciate the support he provides for us and several of the racers in the community. And so, John, talk to us about Hitch Harness and the services that they provide.
Yeah, so as you guys can see here from the website, they have a lot of accessories on there. They have a lot of options for not just your hitch, for even your truck bed or for your vehicle, but just a lot of other options on there that you can utilize for all of your accessories and anything else that you kind of need or really want to maybe enhance your car or truck a little bit, maybe even protect your hitch a little bit better, or in the case of where we when we lose Jessup. You can even protect your hitch even more so it doesn't fly out of the vehicle and hit Jessup in the head. We do not want that. He does not need more trauma. So, besides the race fans, check them out. Hitchharness.com. They do a lot of great things, not just on their website, but for the community as well as the racing community as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tyler, for supporting us for another season here on the Track Packers podcast. We hope to see you at the racetrack pretty soon. So, why don't we get started and jump right into the episode? We'll give another quick shout out to a fellow sponsor, Isaac Hot Sauce Sondrol on the 12S IMCA Modified. Did venture onto the Dakota Classic Modified Tour for a night. Well, tried to do a couple different nights. Unfortunately, mine got rained out, unfortunately. And so just one night of racing in. Looked really good in his B main. Again, heat races for Isaac have been the Achilles heel. And I know he gets frustrated with the heat races, but again, typically your feature races will pay way more than your heat races. So He's got that dialed in. Looked really good in the B main. Almost made the transfer, but I believe he may come over to Mandan. We'll see. So if you see him, stop down in the pits. Check out his Facebook page, 12S Racing on Facebook, to stay up to date on all his happenings and whereabouts. So thank you, Isaac, for your support as well on the podcast. John, you had a couple for this week, so I'm curious what you got.
Sure. I'll share my screen here in just a second, Mason, and that way we'll see. I'm going to stick with the theme of modified since we're in the middle of the Dakota Classic Modified Tour. So I'm going to kind of have the modified theme here. And I'm going back in the early 2000s era.
Oh,
So
okay.
just give you a heads up here, Mason, on where everything is kind of going to sit for all of these very, very neat shots that are out here. I've got two of them tonight. So this is an IMCA modified back from the early 2000s. It's a driver that is still active to this day, racing.
What state is he from?
He is from Minot, and
He's
he's
from
from North
my
Dakota.
he's from Minot.
Yes, he is.
9X. Well, that's not Hellbus because I use a 9H. Well, wait,
Yeah,
Raging River
so
Water Park. That's a Bismarck Mandan business.
it's got a Mandan, sponsorship on here. But again, this driver is from Minot.
9X. What the heck? Tracks Plus. That's the old go-kart track near the fairgrounds. Oh, I'm gonna kick myself. I have no idea.
Mason, this is Drew Christensen.
Really?
Yes. So it might have been a car that he was borrowing for a night, but he was in this IMCA modified back in the early 2000s. And this is a
Huh.
picture from Dakota Speedway.
Yeah, I mean, he was always sponsored by Tracks Plus, so that makes sense. I mean, I never knew he raced a 9X though.
So yes, so this is Drew. So Drew is the first one on here.
Okay.
Okay, so that was our first one with our theme of, modifieds because we're sticking with the modified theme here for tonight. And then Mason, let's go to our second one. We're gonna go different realm. We're not going IMCA mods now. We're gonna go with soda mods. And here is the second picture.
7R. Oof. Is that Ryan Rested or a Rested of some sort?
No, it's a WISSOTA mod. This driver is kind of from the Bemidji area. He has won the Stock Car Stampede before.
Does he still race?
He still dabbles in racing.
Ah, shoot. Um, the Midgie area.
His number was recently 7J.
Oh, it's a Jacobson.
It is.
It's not Mike Jacobson. Who's it? Rick Jacobson.
It is. Yep. So Rick was 7R for a little while in his racing career. And this is actually down at the Brown County Speedway in Aberdeen at the early 2000s. So that would be Rick's car right there.
Nice.
So those are the couple I have. I also want to share one more image here as well, just in great theme here as we're missing two of our counterparts here tonight. And this is just a great tribute to both Jessup and Becca.
Oh, yes.
Look at this great screenshot of them having a frozen podcast camera when Jessup was coming in hot to try to throw the caution flag at Mason.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that episode. I love how we both have that saved on our computers.
We do. It was great. I took a screenshot immediately.
See, now they can't complain that they didn't make an appearance on the show this week.
This is true.
Even though I gave them clear instructions to give us like a 3 to 5 minute video recapping their tour so far, and
And
they
they
still have not.
still haven't done it. I agree. I mean, right? We can only give them options. We can't make them do it.
right? I mean, hey, we're working all day. They're on vacation.
Exactly, traveling. They could just do it in the vehicle.
Exactly. Yeah. So cool. Well, that's awesome for this week's Hot Sauce Hot Memory Rewind. And I forgot to even talk about who or what we are repping for this episode. What shirt are you repping for this week?
Okay, so I'm going Dakota Classic Modified Tour route. I'm going last year's shirt. So I've been wearing the last year's shirt for the Dakota Classic Modified Tour. 35th annual. So this is the shirt from the 35th annual Dakota Classic Modified Tour. Has the winners on it from the year before. And then during this season, the champions or defending champions were Cameron Starry in your IMCA stock cars. Unfortunately, Mason, he was not able to make the tour.
Mm.
He had pre-registered. He actually had been involved in a wreck a couple weeks before tour and had a lot of damage on the car to fix. So he's actually in the process of still fixing up his car and was not able to make it up here for the tour this year. So hoping to maybe see him back here next year for the tour. And then also Ethan Broxma. And Broxma was back for the tour. So it was nice to see Ethan back on the tour for the 2025 season. And I believe going into tonight, he was points leader on the tour. So having a pretty strong tour again in that 111 car.
Yep, he's been very fast, and even if you stick him deep in a lineup, as we've seen this week, he makes his way to the front. So definitely knows how to save his equipment and get good finishes. So
I would agree.
he's going to be tough to beat these last couple of nights. And fun fact, I forgot to get a shirt in Jamestown, so maybe they'll have some extras there the next time I go there.
Oh boy, Mason. You forget a shirt all the time, no matter what track you go to.
To be fair, since I know whereabouts that they sell them at Nodak versus like in Jamestown a little bit more, I was definitely planning to get the shirt in Minot. Unfortunately, that didn't pan out. So I'm like,
Did not.
well, darn. So maybe they'll have some shirts on hand now at Nodak now since they didn't actually have that race in. But anyways, I've stuck with the modified route. I'm repping the Deuce Casey Arneson, the 2A. I can't remember if there's anything on the back. Oh, there it is.
Yep, Casey's car's on the back.
Yep. So these are the shirts that were being sold and then handed out over the last few years over the Jamestown Speedway and at the banquet. This is where I got the shirt, was at the banquet last year. And so kind of, I mean, we'll talk about it a little bit, but Colin Hibden got the win at Jamestown. It's a tribute to Deuce, Casey Arneson with the two out the window as he crossed the finish line. So very fitting start for the tour, I think, and definitely still miss the 2A out on the track and definitely miss Casey being with us. And so that's who or what I'm repping for this episode and a Street Stock Tour hat because I'll be going on tour again this weekend.
That is true.
Weather pending. We'll see what the weather does. So let's get back into last week, which kind of started pretty early for us. I know I
It
started a
did.
week ago Wednesday for racing up in Grand Forks, so trying to remember exactly all that happened. They had 98 cars there. Regular classes, part of the Wayne Anderson Cup with the NOSA sprint cars, and also WISSOTA modifies that make several appearances throughout the year. And so pretty solid field, especially on a Wednesday night. I know their main focus that night was just try to get through the show as quick as possible. Because of course Thursday a lot of people still had to work, and so a lot of the victory lane celebrations, especially if the drivers had won there before, they didn't do post race victory lane. If you were a first time winner there, which there was one of them at least on Wednesday night, then they did the interview. So kind of a little bit different layout than normal. And so street stocks, which they had 14 of them in attendance, kicked off the night. Pretty good race. Weston Ramsrud and Cole Gresseth kind of were the main players in the mix, along with Greg Josie. Those three were putting on a whale about up front. And Cole, who's been stacking up wins, especially at River Cities and some of these bull ring tracks, did all he could. Couldn't quite get around that 67 machine. So Weston Ramsrud kicked off feature action with a win there. Cole started eighth, got to second. Greg Josie plus 10, 13 to third. And Hunter Carter made a rare appearance up there, 10th to fourth. So definitely a lot of passing, along with Layla Chaplin going 12th to 5th. Inner Midwest Modifieds, 19 of them in attendance. Another very solid race. The track was very tacky, by the way. Very, very heavy on a hot and humid night. That track did not really dry out one bit. And so, kind of a surprise, but a couple players in the mix here. Ryan Scala started on the pole, kind of set sail to start things off, but then a rookie in the division, Luke Erlin's in the 18 machine, got around him on a restart, and he started to cruise away. And then there had a few cautions here and there, and Ryan would make a couple of different advances on him. But Luke, first time at the River City Speedway, gets his first career Midwest Modified feature win up at River City. So congrats to Luke. He started fifth on the night. Ryan Scott finished in second. Memphis Clausen 11th to third. So great run for Memphis in that 47K. McKenna Rumble fourth. And Aaron Blacklance was your fifth place finisher. Then up next was your WISSOTA late models. And for a Wednesday night, having 26 late models in attendance, pretty solid, I would say. That was an excellent field and no shortage of competitors here. We had a long traveler, Mike Stearns, come up, racing both in the late model and the modified. And of course, you have Dustin Strand, Tyler Pearson, always the two that you kind of have to watch. And of course, Dustin Strand, he started outside row two. He got to lead pretty quick. Tyler Pearson also started outside row four, and he got to second pretty quick. And so then it was kind of a let's see if Tyler can kind of catch Dustin. Took lap traffic to kind of narrow the gap, and then they had a caution, which kind of bunched things up. But then Dustin was able to kind of use that restart to kind of get some breathing distance. So he got another feature win in the WISSOTA late models. Tyler Peterson second, and Mike Stearns, who I mentioned earlier, finished in third. So great run for the 24S Superman. Sprint cars, good solid field, 21 sprint cars on hand. Mark Dahmeyer was kind of the guy to beat to kick things off. Kind of set sail on the field on the 30 lap A main. Had a long green flag run to start, and then had a caution about 12, 13 laps in or something like that. And then all of a sudden, the 13 car pulls in the pits. We're like, well, that changes. As Becca would say, that changes everything. Turns out it was like some fuel line issue. And so rather than kind of risk things getting worse, decided to just call it a night. And so that handed the lead over to the 8H of Jade Hastings, who then had to hold off a hard charging Annie Pake for the last few laps, which the track by that time for the sprint cars was slicking off a little bit. And so Annie Pake is really good on the slick. And so he was really tracking down the 8H, but couldn't quite get the race winning pass through 3 and 4. So Jade Hastings got the feature win. Andy Pake finished in second, and Jack Croker in the 8 ball finished in third. And finishing off the night with the WISSOTA Modifieds, 18 of them showed up, and it was the Dustin Wall show in the 74. Like, he started outside pole, and he ran away from the field on every restart. There was no one in his zip code. The only person that probably could have been in his zip code was Tyler Peterson. He had trouble in his heat race, didn't finish, started dead last, 18th, and got to second at the checkered flag. So if there was one more caution, would have been interesting to see. But Dustin Wall grabbing another feature win in the WISSOTA Modifieds, Tyler Peterson in second, and Bryce Borgen was your third place finisher. And that was your night over in River Cities on Wednesday the 2nd. So then we moved to Thursday. John, where did you go on Thursday?
Thursday, I was at McLean County Speedway in Underwood. So I went up to Underwood on Thursday and partook in their racing action, which they had like kind of their Memorial Days. I'm not their Memorial Independence Day special. See, that would have
That
been a
would be a
caution
caution
nation
on
if we
normal
would have thrown cautions,
circumstances.
but we're not throwing cautions. So for their Independence Day special up at McLean County Speedway, and they had a very nice field of cars in attendance. So total overall, they had 6 classes with 86 cars. So let's just run down the order. The sprints were first, and it was a 30 lap race in the feature event for your wingless sprint cars, your Western Renegades. And they had 10 sprints. It was a hot night. I mean, it was warm, it was sticky and humid. And in the feature event, you had Dusty Lawson out front in the lead, kind of controlling the race until he wasn't. And Dusty took a very hard tumble over in 3 and 4 off of the high bank on 3 and 4. He was transmitted to hospital in Minot, and good news is he was okay. He got released that night, and was sore this weekend, but was resting and recovering. So good news is Dusty was okay, but very, very hard wreck. So Ken Ron took over from Grand Rapids, Minnesota, and ended up being your future winner in that 30 lap affair over there in Underwood. Next class on the track after that was your IMCA hobby stocks. And in your hobby stocks, you had one of the drivers that has been very tough no matter where he has been this year, and that is Caden Appelt. He was in attendance. He got the lead with about 5 laps to go, and he was gone. Alex Twite actually led a lot of that race and almost looped it in 3 and 4, coming out of turn 4 with about 4 to go. And then finished, I still think, in the top 5. However, Caden Appelt was in another zip code after that, and he was gone from the field. In your IMCA Sport Compacts, this driver was what we can say gone. She was just gone from the whole entire field. I mean, she led by half a straightaway pretty much that whole entire race, and that was Brooklyn Tomlinson. Brooklyn picked up her first win of the year in McLean County Speedway. She has also got a win up at the Nodak Speedway. So she has now got 2 wins on the year there in that 17 machine out of Turtle Lake. And in Brooklyn, held off the likes of drivers like Zach Eubanks, as well as Harrison Schwartz, Abby Tolman. I mean, it was a very good field of cars up there for your sport compacts, and it was Brooklyn that won that affair on Thursday. On to your legends. Your NX legends were next. They had 28 cars. They ran 15 laps, and they were clean and green. They did have a consi in that class too, but it was Gage Madler. Gage has been kind of on a little bit of a hot streak here as of late and picked up the win over Preston Martin in second. Ty Olson finished in the top 3 in third. Austin Weiss was fourth, and Noah Madler was in your top 5. So clean and green in your legends. Onto your IMCA stock cars. They had a very nice field of 15 cars. A lot of drivers were getting their feet wet before some of them were going to go in the Dakota Classic Modified Tour. And then that race was a great race to kind of conclude the stock car feature event for the night. And that race considered of drivers or consisted of drivers like Marcus Tomlinson. You also had Bruce Rutland in there. Looked very good in that 30 car on Thursday night. But the driver that led a majority of that race was in the field as being the 5T of Tomlinson. Marcus Tomlinson started 8th and worked his way to the front. He was slowly but surely kind of using the bottom. Not a lot of drivers are using the bottom. He was able to use the bottom. Brenner Grinstead, like I had mentioned, was the driver that was up front kind of for majority of that race, trying to see what he could do in that 51X machine as he's getting his feet wet this year in the IMCA stock car division, a rookie driver in that division this year. And Brenner was on the high side, and Marcus threw a slider on him coming out of turn 4 with about 5 laps to go and picked up his first win in the IMCA stock car division in a 2008 car that's out there in that IMCA stock cars. So it was Marcus, Brenner Grinstead was right up there. So was Storm and Jorn Boyce, as well as drivers like Christopher Zenz, a rookie in the division for your stock cars this year, getting his feet wet and also doing very well here the last couple of runs out in that 69Z machine. The class to conclude the night was your IMCA Northern Sport Mods, and Gabe Deshaw did Gabe Deshaw things and picked up a win again in that 21 machine within your IMCA Sport Mods. So congratulations to Gabe. He's also been on tour here this week and has looked pretty good so far on the tour, as there's a lot of stiff competition this year, especially in your IMCA stock car division as well. His car counts are up in your stock cars here for 2025. But that was a night in Underwood. After that, they concluded with fireworks, and we headed on home, getting ready for the 4th of July.
Yeah, you mentioned it was a hot and humid night over in Underwood. It wasn't much different over in KRA Speedway where I was myself. I showed up late because of work, and actually, thankfully, not super late. I actually got out of work early, so thank you to my boss for that. It was like 95 and humid. So as soon as I walked out of the vehicle, I'm like, yeah, I'm this is not ideal. But hey, we're at a racetrack. That's all I care about. And they had a great field of cars. So it was the first night of their doubleheader. They were doing a 2-night show with a Friday night. I think they were focusing on the WISSOTA Mod 4s. They were having a payout and special there. So I was only there for the Thursday night portion. 97 cars, with all their classes. So very, very good field of cars in several of the divisions. The pure stocks, they were local track pure stocks, kind of kicked things off. They had 8 of them in attendance. It was a little bit of a struggle to get that race going, but once we did get going, it was the Brady Hagan show as he kept his car straight and pointed the right direction and grabbed the feature win. So congrats to the 32 Brady Hagan out of Montevideo getting the feature action started. Here's street stocks. When you got 25 street stocks in Wilmer, that was a very, very solid field. And they put on a pretty good race. We had the likes of Zach Flickinger starting on the pole along with Weston Ramsey, who had just won the previous night up in Grand Forks. And so they kind of kicked things off from the front of the pack. But then you had drivers such as Keith Tourville, Justin Vogel, Ethan Imes kind of making their way from mid-pack. And it became the Tourville and Vogel show because I believe Vogel got out to the lead for after that. And what was happening was the highest side was starting to come in a little bit. And Keith Tourville found it. Kind of as a leader, you're almost a sitting duck, and he made the race winning pass with just a couple laps to go. And Keith Tourville, who's pretty much been one of the guys to beat down in that area, gets another feature win in Wilmer. Justin Vogel finished in second, Ethan Imes third, and shout out to Joe Martin, 16th to 4th in that two machine. So very good run for Joe Martin as well. Your Midwest Modifieds were up next. Another solid field, 19 cars in attendance. And this was not really a contest because Ryan Flaughton, once he gets out front, he is a very, very tough guy to beat, especially if he doesn't start on the front row. It's kind of got a knack if he starts on the front row and leads a lot of laps, yeah, then you don't exactly know what's coming, and usually that results in a late pass. But not the case this time, as Ryan Flaughton started fifth, got to the lead a few laps in, and set sail on the rest of the field. So he gets another feature win in the Midwest Modifieds in front of Jason Vetraba and Tim Canton in the 16T machine. The WISSOTA Mod 4s, 14 of them in attendance, had a quick caution right away, but then they went clean and green the rest of the way for their feature, and it was the 5H of Dustin Holtquist taking the feature win in front of Blake Hawker in the 21 and his dad Robert Holtquist in the Scooby-Doo 5 machine. Super stocks. Now, the track was, I think, the best race overall was the super stocks. The only problem is that Dexton Cook was all the way in the next county as a leader. So he was like a straightaway in front of the cars that were going 2 and 3 wide for second on back. And so it wasn't really a contest for the win, but the battle for second was pretty fierce between Eric Martini, Andrew Hedke, Zach Schultz. It was fun to watch. But Dexton Cook, who's probably been on a little bit on the struggle bus this year, gets a very, very convincing win down in Wilmer. Eric Martini in second, and Andrew Hedke, your third place finisher. Good solid field of modifieds, 13 of them in attendance on that Wednesday. Nate Heinrich set sail to start with, but then he had to battle Jake Knapper in the 66 machine. But as those two were duking out, that allowed the 6X of Bryce Sword to also enter the mix. And Bryce Sword got the lead midway through the race, and he held off a late challenge from Nate Heinrich in the 10H machine to claim another feature win on the 2025 season. So congrats to the 6X of Bryce Ward, with Nate Heinrich finishing in second and Jake Knapper in third. And then your Hornet division, it was the Braxton Schmitz and Christian Cast battle. They were side by side for several laps of that feature event, with the 26 of Braxton Schmitz coming out on top in a great battle with the 03 of Christian Cast. And Christopher Bloom was your third place finisher there as well. And that finished off the night down in Wilmer. Finished just before curfew. So good night of racing overall in Wilmer. And I heard July 4th in Wilmer was pretty good too. So that was the racing action I got in before the 4th of July. I took the 4th off. I went up to visit friends in Minot. Did you also take the 4th off as well, John?
I did. I took the fourth off. I actually was not feeling the greatest on the fourth, the morning of the fourth. I don't know if it was just from the heat the day before, but I actually didn't even go to the Mandan 4th of July parade because I usually walk with the racetrack. Didn't even walk with the racetrack this year. Woke up and had a headache on Friday, and ended up staying actually kind of at home, just kind of lounging around. And then Jamestown canceled on the 4th as they ended up with 2.5 inches of rain on the Friday before they started the mod tour on Saturday. Still did the fireworks show, but it was definitely wet based on looking at the grounds. It was very, very moist. So over there on Friday, as they had a thunderstorm roll through around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and that kind of quit the entire evening. So the fourth for me, very quiet as well.
Yeah, and the last few years I've taken the 4th off, which has been kind of nice. I was watching the weather in Fergus to see if they would run. I think they canceled at like 7:30 in the morning because of
They
heat and
cancel pretty early. Yeah, they canceled pretty early. It was hot and humid over that direction as well.
Yeah.
It was pretty nice in Bismarck. It was actually for us during the day. It was like right around low 80s, a very light breeze. A few showers here or there to begin the day, but besides that, it was pretty much kind of nice throughout the rest of the day. And it turned out to be a really nice day in Bismarck because we had that front move through that just kind of
Mhm.
continued off to the east and pushed along that big line of storms.
Yeah, yeah. Fergus, between the storms that were forecasted and the heat, that was definitely the right call for them to make.
Yes. And
And
Aberdeen canceled too. So yeah, so a lot of tracks were off on the 4th of July that we're planning on racing.
yeah, and so the last race that both of us got to take in was over at the Jamestown Speedway for the kickoff of the Dakota Classic Modified Tour, which they had a very, very good field of cars in both the modifieds and the stock cars, just the two divisions running, 105 total with 60 modifieds and 45 stock cars. So very pleased with the car count to kick off things at the tour. And I will say I got there probably about 6:10, 6:15. I was very impressed that the track was in as good a shape as it was after all that rain.
Yeah, the track was pretty smooth, to be honest with you. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of ruts in it or anything else. There was a little bit of a bump going into three and a little bit right in one and two, but nothing that was, you know, really bad from a rut perspective or anything else. And they pretty much kind of let the track sit a majority of the day to try to dry out. They did blade it before I got there in the afternoon because I got there around two, so they did blade it before that. But besides that, it pretty much kind of sat and dried out, and then they added water on it as the night continued, and yeah, it was pretty smooth the entire night.
Yeah, heard several compliments from drivers that the track was in very good shape and they were very impressed. And you definitely didn't want to go to the infield because that was a whole different story.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a swamp.
Yeah.
So I walked across the infield, I think twice on Saturday. I went across, and I made sure I went where there was tracks.
I was like, well, because I was a fan. I mean, John was pretty much a fan as well. We didn't really have any duties. And I'm like, I am not venturing over in the infield tonight. Not, nope.
Yeah. So Mason, how do the grandstands look from your side? Because you were in the pit stands.
Yeah, I was in the pit stands all night, and the grandstand looked like it was pretty well full. I mean, just besides like the couple bottom rows, which is it's always hard to see at any track at the
Yeah.
very bottom rows, but very good crowd attendance, and you could definitely hear them cheering for certain drivers too when their names were being called. And so I think it was a very good turnout in the stands, and pits were bustling. Everyone was like in a great mood, very happy to be there for the start of the tour because, of course, Jamestown missed out on last year because of weather, and so people were definitely looking forward to getting back to Jamestown because it's one of the premier tracks on the tour, I would say. I think they put on a really
Yeah.
good show there, and I think they did again this year.
Yeah, some really good drivers, like Mason said. A lot of states are represented again this year. A couple Canadian provinces represented again this year. And a lot of travelers and a lot of the big names in the IMCA division. So you have kind of your crown jewel event winners, you know, with Super Nationals, past tour champions, and your IMCA modifieds, and then also some really big names in the IMCA stock cars that come out each and every year. So it's kind of the best between the national level compared to the local level. So you've got a lot of your local hot shoes that run on the tour as well. So Mason, I'm going to start off with the stock cars. You can take care of the mods. So
Sounds good.
stock cars were your first class up for heat races as well as concees. And then obviously their feature was the first one up for the night as well before the mods took center stage for the main event. But the stock car battle was really good up front and a lot of moving and shaking. You had your defending stock car stampede champion of Johnny Carter, which congratulations to Kayla and Johnny. They had their little girl on Saturday morning at 7:01 a.m. before Johnny came and raced that night. So don't worry, race fans. Kayla kicked him out and said, go race. So I asked
Literally,
Johnny
that's
that question
exactly
in the
how it
pits.
played out.
Yep. I asked that question in the pits. I was like, Johnny, I'm surprised you're. And he's like, yeah, Kayla looked at me about early afternoon and said, why aren't you on the road yet going to race? You said you were going to go race Jamestown. You're going to go race Jamestown. Your car's loaded up. Go get it. Go race. So that's pretty much how it happened. And Johnny came over and won his heat race in a very spirited battle with Jeremy Ritchie out of the Oregon area. So Jeremy looked really good in his stock car on Saturday night and started that feature event in 10th, got his way up to second, and was challenging Johnny really hard towards the end of that race to pick up the feature win. They crossed the start finish line. Johnny Carter won the feature event with the flag stand, and then went to Victory Lane, had a great Victory Lane interview. Jeremy Ritchie had a great interview for second place. Post race tech came around and Johnny got DQ'd. So something with the carburetor that did not meet specs for the 2025 season. Johnny took full on responsibility for it. It'll get fixed back up. Nothing that was malicious by any means. It was just an oversight on his side. One of the things like he had mentioned is that he knows the rules really well from the WISSOTA side, doesn't know the rules really well from the IMCA side. That's on him, and something that he took full responsibility for. But Johnny Carter was unfortunately DQ'd, and Jeremy Ritchie ended up with the win on night one of the tour. So congratulations to Jeremy picking up not only just a podium finish because he was really happy with that, but picking up his first ever career win on the Dakota Classic Modified Tour in that 15J IMCA stock car.
Yeah,
So
great run for Jeremy because he's been on the tour. Is it just last year or has he been on it for a couple
last
years
three
now?
years now. Yep. So it's been a couple years, but the first year was the mod. And then the last 2 years have been both with the mod and a stock car. He has the mod in the trailer this week too, but he said he's probably not going to run it this week. He's probably just going to focus on the stock car.
Yeah, I mean, it was great to see him run up towards the front because I know the last couple of years probably been little bit of a struggle if you'd ask him, but yeah, definitely kind of a little bit of a surprise to me personally with him battling for the win. So great job to Jeremy Ritchie in that 15 machine.
Yeah, he looked really good, Mason, in that too. And then other drivers in your top five. So Shelby Williams, one of the tour favorites from down there in Texas, was runner up in the 82 machine. Rob Van Mill, a past tour champion, was in third. Brandon Schmidt in the 20 machine was in fourth. So really good battle there within your top four. And a lot of movers and shakers. Brandon Schmidt started 14th and ended in fourth. So pretty good run. And then you go farther back in the field, and Dan McAtoon, who started tail end on the field, finished in 10th. So some movers and shakers on that feature event.
Yep, so great feature to kind of kick things off, and then the modifiers, of course, close things out. And front row consists of Justin O'Brien and Brandon Schmidt, which Brandon Schmidt looked really really fast in his heat race. I was like, wow, he's got his car
Gone.
dialed in. So I believe Justin O'Brien was the early race leader, and kind of in the stock cars, the groove was more towards the bottom and a little bit of the middle if you could kind of get your car to work there. They did water the top a little bit before the mods took the green flag. And first few laps, it was a little bit dirty. It's going to take a few laps to get that worked in. And of course, I was thinking in the pits, I'm like, someone's going to get up and work that high side, and whoever finds it first is probably going to get to the front and kind of have the control of the race. And no surprise, Kid Smooth Colin Hibden, who knows the Jamestown Speedway very well, he's got several big wins at the Speedway, was one of the first up there, and I think Tom Berry was the other one I was kind of keeping an eye on.
Mhm.
They got that high side cleaned off, and all of a sudden, Colin shot to the lead, and here comes the brigade trying to find that same line as well. And so then it was kind of a race to kind of get lap traffic to make sure you didn't make any mistakes, no screw ups or anything like that. And you have a guy like Ethan Broxma, last year's tour champion, tracking down Colin Hibden. Justin O'Brien was still there. So, coming down in the last few laps, Ethan was kind of closing in, but could never really
He was.
couldn't really get any good run to try to take a slider at him, especially with lap traffic right in front of him in both grooves. And so, Colin Hibden got the feature win. He started fourth on the field, so congrats to Colin Hibden on the win. Ethan Broxma finished in second, and Justin O'Brien was in third. A couple of your movers were Chaz Bach on the 75 Junior, started 14th, moved up 10 spots to fourth. And then Cody Laney, another really fast runner out of California, started 23rd, up 14 to finish ninth. So definitely some moving and shaking in the modified feature as well. I believe they only had one or two cautions in that race.
Yeah, I think it was only one caution. I think it was just the caution between Tom Berry Jr. and Johnny Carell. I think were the only caution if I remember correctly. I think that was the only one. That was
Yeah,
pretty early.
and you mentioned Johnny C. He went to the back on that
He
caution,
did. He
and he
went
got back
back
up
to
to
like
11th.
Yeah, he got back up pretty quick because I think he went back to 23rd. I think that time there was still 23 cars on the track because I think Logan Schmitz got damaged right away in that start of that feature. They showed a great video actually on it on the highlight video that his tire was like this, so he must have broke the
Oh
tire
yeah.
rod. And so he pulled in only a few laps into the feature. Then Johnny Carell and Tom Berry Jr. got together a little bit and Johnny C went to the back and got his way back up to 11th.
Yeah, so he's definitely got that. It's a rage car, I believe,
It's
correct?
a Rage chassis. Yep.
Yeah, he's that car is really fast. It's only a matter of time before he gets into victory lane before the end of the year.
Yeah, I'm surprised he hasn't actually broke into victory lane yet. He's been there as a runner-up multiple times, but he's actually not actually punched his ticket into victory lane.
He just wants the Coogan.
This is true.
Yeah, so that does it for the races that we got to attend this past weekend. We'll save the rest for the Pelkeys as they finish off their racecation. As unfortunately, Nodak Speedway rained out. I know John and I were planning to go to that one as well. I since I had family in town, I was staying with them, and I think they got like a half inch of rain within like an hour or 2 hours mid-morning. And so when I drove past, I'm like, well, the pits look like a mess and there's water in the ditches. I didn't even see the track and then seeing pictures and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. And like the forecast is supposed to be like overcast and like mid 60s, so it's like it's not really gonna dry out all that much. And then what happens at 2:30, 3 o'clock, John? Guess what happened?
The sun came out.
Sun came out, moved up the temperature into the 70s. It's like, go figure.
What a surprise. Cancels and then the sun comes out.
Yeah, I'm like, yep, that just figures, but it's a theme for the year, so that's our track packer report for this week. So why don't we take a look at the races coming up next? If you want to give a shout out to Dakota Dirt, you can at this point, John.
I know, right? If you guys want to check out schedules, maybe what Mason can do on this segment would be just take a screenshot of Dakota Dirt's site for the schedule on there for the upcoming races for the week, because that has everything in there from the North Dakota realm as well as neighboring tracks that are right next to the border, whether you're Estevan up north, whether you're maybe Buffalo River or even Ada over there in the Minnesota side. So again, check that out, dakotadirt.org. They are social. They may do an article, but Jessup himself has just been so busy having an off summer from school that he has not been able to do an article yet. So eventually they'll have an article up there when he can find time in his busy summer to do an article.
I was getting some different notifications from the Dakota Dirt page. He actually shared a post today, so
Whoa.
there is that. But yes, I will. I'll briefly go through some of the North Dakota races that are on this schedule, starting for Thursday. That'll be finishing up the sixth and final night, or sixth and scheduled final night of the Dakota Classic Modified Tour over at the Dakota Speedway with IMCA Modifieds and stock cars. And then also taking place tomorrow as the Cheyenne Speedway back in action after their little break. They have their regular classes minus their bombers and hobby stocks, but they have the IMCA Race Saver 305s in attendance. So that's kind of a special treat. The one and only time that they'll be at the Cheyenne Speedway this season. On the 11th, we have the Tri-County Speedway racing as well. Oh, and also Tri-County is racing on Thursday, the 10th. Almost forgot.
Yes, they have their fair week. So they're
Yep.
racing with their fair week. Yep.
Yep. Thursday and Friday down in Wishox for their fair weekend. On the 11th, we have River City Speedway racing. I believe it's their normal classes. They also have Race Saver 305 sprints. That is the Red River Sprint Series, but for both Lisbon and up in Grand Forks for those 2 nights as they get ready for a 4-day weekend next weekend. So kind of a little tune up before. There'll probably be a lot of travelers coming next week. There'll probably be a few this weekend too.
I would think so. Yep.
Saturday the 12th, Thunder Mountain Speedway in action. That'll be their regular classes as well. Jamestown Speedway back after last Saturday night. It is their kids' night, their regular classes. So it'll
It
be a
is.
pre-race meet and greet with a lot of the drivers up in front of the grandstands. So if you're wanting to go to the races in Jamestown, come there early so you can meet the drivers, get some hero cards. They may have some swag that they'll be giving away. All sorts of good stuff that I'm sure they have planned over in Jamestown on the 12th. And also racing on the 12th is Devil's Lake Speedway. That is also their regular car classes minus the wingless sprint cars, pure stocks, street stocks, Midwest mods, and late models in action. And Sunday the 13th, kind of a weird schedule because Nodak Speedway is off with the fair break now. McLean County Speedway is racing on Sunday the 13th. And let me get their
Mhm.
classes real quick. They have their IMCA Hobby Stocks, Sport Compacts, Sport Mods, Stock Cars, and the Legends are also racing on the 13th. And so that's your North Dakota schedule. Outside the state of North Dakota, we have on Thursday the 10th, KRA Speedway Racing, along with the Victory Lane Speedway up in Winnipeg. The 11th, Friday, is the first of a doubleheader down in Aberdeen, South Dakota, the Andy Daly Memorial, specialized in the super stocks. Uh, Elevated payout for all the classes, especially for the super stocks on Saturday. I believe it's $3,012 to win for the super stocks.
I think so. I think it's 3012 because Andy's number was 12.
Yep.
So, yep. So, hopefully, a ton of super stock drivers show up for that show. That would be a great thing to support for Andy, the Stearns family. They put a lot of work into that show. So, be sure to go down there and check that out, especially if you're running a WISSOTA super stock.
Yes. Yeah. Very good payouts and elevated payouts for all the other classes. So they should have a good turnout of cars there. Also racing on Friday at Fiesta City Speedway is the Timmy Imes race for ALS race. So Midwest Modifieds racing for, I believe it's 3,058 to win down in Montevideo. So big payout for the Midwest Modifieds. That payout goes really deep through the field. So definitely, if you're a Midwest Modified driver, that'd be one of the other places you could go support as well. I-94 is racing. They are having their fireworks show as their last week's show got canceled with that. Sparkle Night at Princeton Speedway, and then Red Cedar Speedway is hosting the Dirt Race Central Street Stock Tour. So that's your action on Friday the 11th. On Saturday the 12th, as we mentioned, Brown County Speedway, second night of the Andy Daly Memorial. That is the big night payout for all those classes. Looks like I got Grand Rapids Speedway on here. What are they racing? Oh yeah, they got their regular classes racing on a rare Saturday night because I believe Hibbing raced on Tuesday, so kind of filling the
That
void
is
there.
correct. Yep.
Greenbush Race Park also racing. Madison Speedway is hosting their version of the Timmy Imes ALS race, another
Yep.
elevated payout for the Midwest Modified, so could make a weekend swing. I'm sure there might be a couple people from potentially our neck of the woods that will go down there. I think they went down there for those shows last year. North Central Speedway Racing. Ogilvy Raceway is having their fireworks spectacular. That's an amazing fireworks show, by the way. They do a kick butt job on their fireworks show. Viking Speedway has their, I believe it's free grandstand night. So that should be a big night for them. And the Rice Lake Speedway is also hosting the Dirt Race Central Street Stock Tour. So busy night on the 12th. And then the 13th, we have Paint the Track Pink at Buffalo River Speedway, Granite City Motor Park Racing, Redwood Speedway with Meet the Drivers, and let's see, Bemidji Speedway Racing, along with the Casino Speedway hosting a Soak the Drivers night. So you have kids against drivers in a water balloon fight, I believe. So
Ooh,
that would have been nice on some of those hot days,
no
especially.
doubt.
So a lot of great racing potential on the card as long as Mother Nature lets us play. She hasn't been very nice as of late, so maybe she'll give us a little bit of a break. The weather's been improving in several different areas, so hopefully that
Good.
continues. So that's the races coming for this weekend. We'll give a shout out as we start to wrap up our episode and give a shout out to the B1 IMCA stock car, Brody Carlsrud, who is on the Dakota Classic Modified Tour as we speak. Started off pretty solid. We had a top 10 run over at Jamestown. Of course, didn't race up in Minot. Looked really good to start things off in Estevan, and unfortunately had a little bit of trouble. I mean, there were several cars that had trouble up in Estevan. Brody was one of them, and I believe he did not transfer out of B main tonight at Southwest. But still having a pretty solid tour. He's still pretty new to a lot of these tracks, still getting some good experience. And with a stock car count this year, it's really elevated the competition. So making these features is a very tough feat. So keep your head up, Brody. You got one more night on week, and so hopefully it goes well for you. Be sure to stay up to date with Brody's Racing at Brody Carlsrud B1 Racing and check out his podcast, The Real Deal with B1. So thank you, Brody, for supporting us on the podcast as well. Do you have any wins of the week?
I've got a couple. So, one of my first ones, I'm going to give it over to Gabe DeShaw because Gabe picked up the win on Thursday. in his IMCA Sport Mod. Then went up to Minot during the Independence Day special. Picked up the win up there as well after he had some problems in his heat race. So picked up the win up in Minot. Then changed into his stock car and has been running his stock car now for the rest of the weekend into the beginning of this week as part of the Dakota Classic Modified Tour. So he's been busy. So got to
Mhm.
give it over to Gabe. That's a lot of racing action, and a lot of stuff going on within his realm of the world. So that's his first one. I also have to give a win of the week over to Luke Erlinson, like you said, Mason, picking up his first win over in his first appearance at the River City Speedway up in Grand Forks. Congratulations, Luke. A very, very good win there over in Grand Forks. And then my final win of the week, I need to give it over to Marcus Tomlinson for picking up a win in the IMCA Stock Car Division, his first one ever. He's been plagued, Mason, with a lot of motor issues with his stock car. And funny story about this is that he actually did replace it again, the motor, before they actually raced on Thursday over in Underwood at McLean County Speedway. So they thrashed on that car pretty much all morning on that Thursday morning to get it ready to go. So he picked up a win in his stock cars and looked really good. And hopefully Marcus can get that car continuing to go strong like it is right now and get the car on the road and head over to some of the year-end specials because you know what? We got a couple months and we're back to year-end special racing for invitationals.
That we are. It's coming up very, very fast, and I don't like that it's coming up very fast, unfortunately.
Yeah, same.
Well, you took one of my wins at least, so I kind of have to scramble a little bit here because I didn't really write any down. I will give a win of the week to Trey Hess. He's been having a lot of podium finishes, but maybe not as many wins as he probably would like. Well, he did get a couple wins this past weekend. He got a win up at Greenbush on Saturday the 5th and a win over at Bemidji on the 6th. So good couple runs for Trey Hess, starting to kind of find the rhythm back and kind of getting a few more feature wins as he's in a heavy points battle at the national points, which we'll take a brief look at here in just a second. I will go over to the Viking Speedway and give a win of the week to William London, the 54 machine. He had a great race with Bailey Roche. They put on a great show over at the Viking Speedway on Saturday. They were side by side, almost a dead heat at the finish line for the win. So congrats to William London, the 54L on that. And then I'm going to go off the cuff a little bit for my third win of the week because I have an axe to grind a little bit with this, but I'll wait till next week to fully grind the axe. I'm giving a win to the Estevan Motor Speedway for persevering and getting the race night in. Sure, hindsight's always 2020. I mean, probably would have maybe canceled based on the way the track was, but it's hard to know if you don't give it a valiant effort. And they were working hours upon hours after they got drenched with rain the night before, and it just wasn't trying out a whole lot. And they still put on the race. I thought it was an entertaining race. Had some carnage, unfortunately. That'll happen with the track with a little bit more moisture and character. But want to give kudos to the people, the volunteers, the workers there because it doesn't go unnoticed. I know you may get some heat for it from certain corners, but putting in the effort, I think everyone should appreciate the effort that they put in to get that race night off because that's a big night for them. I think their 50-50 was over $6,000 to the winner.
Wow, that was big then. It was huge.
Yeah, it was like re-listening to the broadcast and just watching that number just go up. I'm just like, they're nuts up there with their
Hmm.
50-50.
They are. Their 50-50 goes way high. I feel like every single race night, whether it's a special or just a regular night, it gets up there too. So, and they always have a great turnout in their 50-50s.
Yeah, it's insane. So they got a great fan base up there, and they had a really good fan count. That grandstand was
Hmm.
looked to be packed. So kudos to them. Alrighty, to wrap up this episode, since it's just John and I, and we nerd out all over this stuff all the time, I wanted to quickly go over national points in the WISSOTA ranks. So can you see my screen, John?
I can now. Yep.
Alrighty, so kind of going from the top down in all the divisions, we got Lesotho Late Models kicking things off. Tyler Peterson putting together a lot of races, got a pretty sizable gap on Devin Foketch, who's in his rookie season, so looking pretty good. Kevin Burdick in third, Becker fourth, Shane Sprasky in fifth. with late models, it's interesting because they take their top 20 shows, I believe.
Correct.
So a lot of these drivers don't have 20 shows in as of yet. I know one guy in particular, that 71 machine, does not, and he's not even
Yeah,
on this list.
and he's won a bunch this year already.
Yes.
So yeah, he's got a lot of wins and he's got a lot of runner-up finishes. I think actually Mason, the more surprising fact with Dustin Strand in the 71 is I think his average finish right now at River Cities this year is like 1.3 or 1.5. That's nuts.
That is nuts. Especially when we were talking about it earlier, they have like mid 20s for their local weekly show.
Yes. Yep.
That's
Their
that's
their late model car
crazy.
count is very healthy up there and it's very nice to see too.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
keep an eye on the late models. There's going to be a lot of shifting here over the next month in the top 10 of the point standings. Although Tyler Pearson's got a pretty good stronghold because he's still clicking off wins periodically.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. And he's your two-time and defending champion in your WISSOTA late model ranks. So he's won it back-to-back years. He's looking for three in a row.
yep. Moving on down to the WISSOTA Modifieds, a rookie's leading this. Kind of the second year in a row, we got a rookie kind of taking charge of the WISSOTA
Yep.
Modifieds. Blake Adams got a gap on Brandon Kopp in the 22 machine, who's been really looking strong this year. Joseph Thomas in third, Sabraski in fourth, and Jody Belfi in fifth. This one, I don't know exactly how to gauge this because I feel like this could really get tight towards the very end as well.
I feel like it's going to get really tight as we hit the middle to end of August timeframe. Blake Adams has had a very nice season. As you can see, he's already had 9 wins in the 40D machine. Brandon Kopp has had a very nice season so far, and he's been running a lot of shows up in the Thunder, kind of that Thunder City Speedway area.
Hmm.
So over there, kind of in Ontario, and he's been running really well up there. So we'll see if he continues doing that because he's been winning a bunch up there, and he's been winning up there against guys like Shane Sabraski, Dave Kane, some of those top names in your sort of ring. So we'll see how that goes. And Joey Thomas could get hot at any time, and you
Hmm.
always have to watch out for Shane. Shane is one of those drivers that can come on at any point and just click off wins. We've seen him win multiple times this year in all three divisions on a given night. So could definitely happen.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Brandon Cobb's been pretty much unstoppable at Thunder City, except for tonight at Thunder City. Jody Belfi got the win. So,
Ooh, so Jody was up there too. So yeah, so Jody might actually be somebody that I mean he's top 5 in points. He could make a run too.
yep, so that'll get very interesting as well. Super stocks. We're not as familiar with super stocks as of late, but Dexton Cook putting together a bunch of races has got the lead over Shane Brasky. Kurt Myers, who for me has been probably one of the hottest super stock drivers as of late.
Agreed.
Max Nelson in fourth and Alex Myers in fifth. So this is going to get pretty tight too because Dexton, he only has 3 wins up to this point as the last updated standings. I don't think that factored in the win he got at KRA last week. So he probably doesn't have the wins that he's looking for, but he's still getting good finishes. And it'll be interesting to see once he starts throwing out those shows, once it gets to 30, how that gap really tightens up again.
Yeah, he didn't look really good to start the season. I know he had some problems with the car, some setup changes, and some other things that he had to go back on. So Dexton's definitely looked better now as we've hit kind of that middle of the season time frame. Shane, of course, right there, like we mentioned, the mods. I was going to watch out for him, and then Kurt Myers as well. Mason, last year is very interesting because those top three last year were definitely in the hunt last year for national points.
Mhm.
So they were three that we were watching down at the 100 really closely to see kind of what was going to happen. So, but it's going to be interesting too to see if drivers such as like Trevor Nelson gets 30 plus shows and starts clicking off some more wins. Also going to kind of watch for like Dylan Nelson, a pass was sort of 100 champion in the 25 machine. Alex Myers, Kurt's son, has been looking pretty good this year in that 21M. And then obviously you got Tommy up there, the rookie in the division. And it's going to get tighter, I feel like, as we get closer into that middle to end of August. I feel like this division is going to be really tight as we hit the 100 time frame.
Yeah, and like Kurt Myers, he's leading the Fastlane Superstock series, so he's been looking pretty good wherever they've gone when they've got like 20 to 30 plus
Yeah.
Superstocks. So
Yeah.
he knows how to win when there's a very large field as well. We move on to the Midwest Modifieds. We have Tyler Verdon, who's put in a pile of shows with a very sizable gap on Blake Adams in the 40D, Landon Rant in third, Joey Jensen in fourth, and Paul Ripley in fifth. It's interesting when I make picks across WISSOTA land because usually like it could be like a random Thursday or random Sunday. You'll see one of these four in particular at one of these random tracks that they normally don't race. And it's like, they're getting in the national points mode almost. And so
They are.
while the while the gap is pretty sizable right now, I mean, once they start throwing out shows, it's going to get real interesting because I think Blake's got like 7 or 8 wins right now to Tyler's 9, and then Landon Rant's starting to get a few more as well. Joey Jensen just won this week in Hibbing. So there's they're going to be traveling quite a bit as August and September roll around too.
Yeah, I'm going to be watching Joey Jensen because I believe last year, he came on really strong to beginning of the season and kind of fizzled out towards the end of the season. And this year he looks really strong through mid-season right now. So Joey's going to be one that we're definitely going to watch. Blake Adams, keep an eye on him. He looks good in the WISSOTA mods and he looks really good in the WISSOTA Midwest mods. So last year at the 100, Lucas Rodin was DQ'd after post-race tech. And Blake Adams was awarded the win last year at the WISSOTA 100 in your WISSOTA Midwest Modified. So he's your defending champion down there as well. So we know he can win on a big stage in front of a big group of people because he's won qualifying nights already. And then obviously he got the win down there, credited with the win down there this past year. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing who is kind of your surprise that's going to jump up there because couple years ago, it was Tony Leichner that jumped up there by basically just number of shows, number of wins, and it could definitely happen again over there in the western part of WISSOTA land.
Yeah, it seems like yeah, Tony Liker, Troy Liker's been getting more of the wins as of late. So yeah,
It's true.
he could
Yep.
definitely make a charge up into the top 10 as well. Street stocks. These top two have been going hard at it. They've been pretty much racing any night they can. Colton Brower and Trey Haas are kind of in a league of their own as far as shows go. And then you have Levi Ranch in third, Cole Gresseth in fourth, and Greg Josie in fifth. So, I mean, North Dakota's well represented, so it's good for us.
Yeah,
So,
look at all those North Dakota people in the top 10 and North Dakota driven drivers, right? So Colton Brower, though, and Trey Hess, I think those are the two that are going to kind of go at it. Just with the
yeah.
number of shows they've run, the number of tracks they visited, I have a feeling those are the two that are going to be going at national points this year. Levi Rent is going to be a strong contender for sure a top five. Cole Gresseth has been kind of your sleeper this year. He started off red hot this season. Has still looked really good. Not racking up the wins right now, but definitely doing still the top fives, which is really important. And then Greg Josie as well has been kind of traveling around a little bit with Trey, but still kind of running his weekly tracks. So we'll see what happens with Greg. And then you've got kind of your typical runners up there, right? KCU status is always a threat for the top 10 in national points. Robert Petrov is always a top 10 contender for national points. So it'll be interesting to see as the season continues. One driver on here that I know is really tough in the season, or multiple drivers in here that are not in your top 10 yet, like Justin Vogel, the Wolverine, a brand new car this year, has not been racking up the wins like he typically does, but he could get really hot towards the end of the season. You got Kyle Dykoff, who has been looked really good on the street stock tour, kind of had a stranglehold on the tour so far this year. He has been running a variety of shows, but not going at it like Trey and Colton with the number of shows that they've been putting in. And then also Keith Tourville has put in a
Mhm.
bunch of shows this year too already and racked up a bunch of wins. So be interesting to see as we continue with Soda Land season, to see how far we get into there and how much competitiveness will be in your streets because your streets are always a really close battle for the national points championship each and every year.
Yeah, I will say I agree. Keep an eye on like the sleeper Cole Gresseth because I think part of the problem is that like a lot of the shows that he was planning to run have been wiped out due to
They've been
weather.
rained out. Yeah, it's been rained out. So yeah,
Because I mean, a lot of those tracks like he'd be right up in the top three. So I mean, he's gonna get closer and closer. I'll see how many. It'll be interesting to see how many wins he can gather up by the end of the season.
I would agree, Mason.
In your mod fours, we got Dean Larson out in front of Ashton Schwinn in the 18, followed by Connor Bruss, Gerald Noner, and Rowan Tram. I think this will also come down to Dean Larson versus Ashton Schwinn, which Ashton's been kind of a fun one to follow. I kind of see him up in Bemidji, and he's been kind of the dominant guy up there. And
He has
so
been.
Dean gets a lot of shows in, whether it's out in his neck of the woods of Wilmer or if he goes out west to like Sheridan, Black Hills Speedway. And then you got the Holtquist there, sixth and seventh, not even in the top five yet.
I was gonna say you need to watch out for both of the Hulkwists, especially Dustin and Robert, because they can get hot at any point in time, and they show up at track, and usually they're in the top five. So they're definitely going to be contenders for national points as they get more shows in to continue into kind of more of the later part of the 2025 season.
Yep, and they also kind of follow the same model as late models, top 20 shows. So this
Yep.
could change pretty quick once people start getting to those 2025 shows. Pure stocks, Eric Crosby leads Dustin Puffy in front of Danae Rose, Aaron Burdick, and Austin Carlson. I know Eric got a lot of shows early on in the year, but he's got 7 wins already. So I mean he's starting to rack them up. Dustin started off a little bit later,
Yep.
but I think it came down to Dustin Puffy and Brent Mindock last year, and Eric Crosby I
It
think was third in his rookie
did.
season. So
Yep, it
similar
did.
kind of players at the front.
Yep. And I think you have to watch out for Austin Carlson. Very good runner out there in Minnesota. Alex Berg, Jake Smith, those drivers right there from fifth through about seventh, you need to keep an eye on them because they can get hot at any time and they can be right up there in the national points contention.
Yep, and Alex Berg actually picked up his first career win at Bemidji just a couple weeks ago. So once you get that first one, they come rolling in bunches. This is also going to be a fun battle to watch. You have Bobby Arnis leading in the WISSOTA Hornets in front of Brady Faso, Anthony Jensen, Russ Kiker Jr., and Christian Cast. There's been a lot of traveling between these top five runners. Like they go everywhere. So this is going to be another fun one to watch all the way down to the last couple races as well.
Watching Bobby and watching Anthony go at it this year has been really fun, especially a lot of the Ogilvy videos between those
Yeah.
two because they're always battling up front. Then you throw Brady into that mix, another really tough runner out of the Hibbing area. And then Christian Cast, obviously, is one that's going to be watching, really closely. Got to watch Jeff as we get farther into the season. And
Yep.
then just keep an eye on the field as a whole because, like the other classes that we just talked about, best 20 shows, also for your Hornets. So
Yep.
it could be very interesting because right now Bobby's got 8 wins. Anthony's racked up the wins. Brady's been racking up the wins, and kind of see what happens as the season keeps going with your Hornets.
Yeah, and like the one last thing I want to mention on the Hornets, like Bobby and Anthony are kind of like they run Princeton and Ogilvy and Granite, so they're like racing each other every week. Whereas like Brady's kind of in that Hibbing, Bemidji area kind of by himself. Russell Kiker kind of goes wherever. So it's like you almost got to pick and choose. Like, do you want to race against the national point contenders? Do you want to try to go get wins on your own?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
definitely some interesting point battles taking place at the halfway point of the WISSOTA season. The other one I'm selfishly watching, and I just interviewed this guy, Luke Erlinson, the Midwest Modified. The rookie battle in the Midwest Modifieds between him, Kyle Anderson, and Kay Johnson. That's gonna be fun to watch too.
They're very close right now. They're kind of got the same number of shows in, kind of have about the same number of points in based on those shows, and they're kind of going to be running against each other, I feel like, a lot as we get farther into the summer. So that part will be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I'm gonna share the screen real quick to kind of show how close it is. Right now, Kyle's leading in front of Cade and Luke. Luke just picked up his first win last week. Kyle's got 1 win on this, or 2 wins. Forgot he won at Wishick as
Yep,
well.
2 wins in the season. Yep.
So things will get tight.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch to see how how they all come apart you know, when they're together and also how they race differently when they're running different flows per point. So that'll be kind of interesting to see.
Yep. So kind of the things we're kind of keeping an eye on as now we've kind of reached the somewhat halfway point of the season. And so definitely keep an eye on the points. We do have several IMCA point contenders in our state
This is
region
true.
up
Yep,
towards the
very
top
true.
as well. So we'll probably talk about that more as after the mod tour has kind of settled down a little bit.
Yeah, probably as soon as the tour kind of settles down a little bit, we'll have more time to kind of go through the IMCA classes.
Yep. So do you have any closing thoughts, John, before we wrap up the episode?
It is going to be a busy weekend, I think, for both of us. You're going to be traveling a little bit to get over to Wisconsin for the Street Stock Tour. I am going to be working a lot because right now I'm in the middle of quarter end close at the office.
Mm.
So I will be working late nights. So tomorrow night, even when the Dakota Classic Modified Tour is in town here in Bismarck, Mandan, I will be at the office until probably close to 8 or 9 o'clock, and then I'll head out to the track afterwards to catch probably the tail end of the Consi slash featured events for the night. But besides that, it's going to be a busy couple of weeks for me from the work side, but also a busy couple of weeks from the racetrack side because I'm going to be at lots of racetracks too.
I say, been missing out on racing with Mother Nature wreaking havoc, and so I'm ready for a full 4-day weekend myself.
Yes.
So with that, that'll do it for episode 17, a little shortened version of the Track Packers podcast. As always, be sure to like, share, and comment. We love to know who's watching. A shout out to Spencer Hupel for checking us out and wondering if we were going to get an episode out this week. Here you are. Thank you to our sponsors, Hitch Harness, The Real Deal with B1 Brody Carlsrud, and Isaac Hot Sauce Sondrol. Hope everyone had a safe and happy 4th of July. We're on the back half of the season, so be sure to take every opportunity to go out there and pack the track.